Hello again. In this video, I'm going to go over this homework problem from 3.5. So in this problem, we're supposed to find the derivative of this function here. And so let me show you how you can do that. Okay, so the first thing you should notice is that this is a quotient. Anytime you divide one function by another function, you have to use the quotient rule in order to find the derivative. And the quotient rule says that if you take the derivative of f divided by g, it's the same as g times f prime minus f times g prime over g squared. And one way of remembering the quotient rule is if you call the top function the high and the bottom function the low, then it's low times the derivative of the high minus the high times the derivative of the low over low times low. And so there's a sort of a song you can make out of this. Low d high minus high d low over low times low, which is low squared. Okay, so that's the quotient rule. So let's apply the quotient rule to this function to find the derivative. Okay, so the first thing we have to find in the quotient rule is the low. The low function in this case is 3 plus cosine of x. Okay, times the derivative of the high. Okay, the high function is 4 minus cosine x. Okay, so that's the low, and then the derivative of the high, minus the high, which is 4 minus cosine x, and then times the derivative of the low. So the derivative of 3 plus cosine x. Okay, then all of that is divided by low times low, or low squared. And the low, again, is 3 plus cosine x, so it's going to be 3 plus cosine x squared. Okay, so that's the quotient rule. Okay, so all we got to do now is find these two derivatives and then maybe simplify it. Okay, so the derivative of this one, you can find the derivative of this by finding the derivative of the first one and then subtracting the derivative of the second one. All right, so the derivative of 4 is 0 because the derivative of a constant, if you remember, is 0. Okay, so we get 0 there. And then, of course, we have 3 plus cosine x in front multiplied by this. Okay, so you got 3 plus cosine of x times the derivative of this function. And again, to find the derivative of this function, you can find the derivative of this one and then subtract off the derivative of this one. So minus the derivative of cosine of x. If you remember, the derivative of cosine of x is minus sine of x. And of course, when you multiply these two minus signs together, that's going to give you a plus sign. Okay, and so then here you subtract 4 minus cosine of x times the derivative of this function. And again, you can find the derivative of this one and then add it to the derivative of this one. And the derivative of this first one is 0, since it's a constant. And then plus whatever the derivative of cosine is. But again, the derivative of cosine is minus sine. So plus minus sine, and I'm just going to write that as minus sine. Okay, and then all of this is divided by 3 plus cosine of x squared. Okay, so let's just clean this up a little bit. Again, this minus sign times this minus sign gives you a plus. So this is just sine of x. And that sine of x has to be distributed to both of these. So you get 3 times sine of x plus cosine times sine of x. And then minus what you get over here. Now what I'm going to do is rearrange this. Again, the order in which you multiply doesn't matter, so I can rearrange the order in which I multiply these two. So I'm going to put the minus sign of x in front, and then put this one in back, just rearranging the order of multiplication. 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2, so the order in which you multiply two numbers doesn't matter. And the reason I'm doing that is because then you'll have this minus sign times this minus sign, and that's just a plus sign. And that's all over the 3 plus cosine of x squared. And so I'm going to go ahead and take care of this now. You have a minus sign here, and that's being multiplied by this minus sign here, and so that's just a plus. Okay, and then we have to distribute this sine of x to both of these. Okay, so you still have 3 sine of x plus cosine x sine x. And then now let's distribute this sine of x to here, and we get 4 sine of x. And then we'll distribute it to here, and then we get minus sine of x times cosine of x. All over 3 plus cosine of x squared. Okay, so now let's just see if we can't simplify this. Notice here that you have a positive cosine of x times the sine of x. And then over here you have a minus sine of x cosine of x. Those cancel out. Again, if you want, you can rearrange the order of these and write it as cosine of x and then sine of x. And so these two terms will cancel out because this one's a plus cosine x sine of x, and this one's a minus cosine x sine of x. Okay, if you change the order of these two. So those cancel out. And then you're left with 3 sine of x plus 4 sine of x, and that adds up to 7 sine of x. Because you have like terms. You have 3 sine of x here, you got 4 of them here, so you have a total of 7. All divided by 3 cosine of x squared. And this is in simplified form. You can't simplify this any further. So this would be the final answer in simplified form. And just to check it, if you go back to MyMathLab, you can see that that's the correct answer. Okay, so I hope you found this video helpful. I'll continue to do some of the problems from Chapter 3, and hopefully you'll get a chance to look at some of those videos as well. Okay, bye-bye.